show, a Monday night game that probably never should have happened for a million reasons. Too many reasons to count. COVID, it's almost an afterthought at this point.
The Patriots postgame show, a Monday night game.
What happens here?
We got an echo.
You hearing me okay, Evan?
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry, I thought I had an echo. So you had the situation that led to them getting here in the first place. Rough day for New England, having to travel out here. You have no Cam Newton out in Kansas City, and you're starting Brian Hoyer in a week. You had no chance really to prepare him for this game. You didn't build in any Brian Hoyer plays. So you run out there, you do your best. The offense obviously really didn't get a lot of things going. Patriots shot themselves in the foot like crazy with 4 turnovers and some really dumb, uncharacteristic, unpatriot-like plays. Defense was outstanding again, holding a Mahomes-led team without a touchdown for an entire half. Everyone saw the stat. That's happened 3 times in his career, and every time has been the Patriots. So defense, I guess, will be the silver lining we take away. We're kind of fired up, so I'm just going to let it, and then we'll see what happens when you're done, and we'll pick up the pieces after.
Okay, yeah, this is going to be a rant. Listen, it's been a long time, and John, you know me very well. I don't get heated very often, right? Things don't get under my skin.
I've seen it, but yeah, go ahead.
All that often, all right? I personally feel like the NFL has done you Patriots fans an absolute disservice from Saturday morning until the end of this game tonight. Between the way that they handled Cam Newton's positive COVID-19 test, to the way they forced the Patriots to travel on the day of the game to Kansas City today and pull basically a 24-hour day door to door to get this game in. And then we get to the game itself and you see that just atrocious refereed game from the beginning. The fumble, interception, rule down, whatever you want to call it. The pass interference call on Travis Kelce. The little phantom flop by Mahomes, I would call it, quite frankly, on the roughing the passer call on Dietrich Wise. Yeah, he absolutely shouldn't have put his hand on him, but that was an absolute flop. And at anything, Wise was just trying to slow down. Dietrich Wise was trying to slow down Patrick Mahomes and his momentum, so neither one of them got hurt, and he gets flagged for it. Travis Kelce cuts into Kyle Duggar's chest, falls to the ground, and Duggar gets called for a defensive pass interference call. Then you put all of that together, and then I just watched a broadcast for 4 hours absolutely spew nonsense about how great Andy Reid is and how amazing of a maestro Andy Reid is as a play caller, when Bill Belichick just held the best quarterback in football and the reigning Super Bowl MVP to 20 points in one of his worst outings, quite frankly, that should have had multiple interceptions, but the Patriots dropped a few of them. We can talk about the self-inflicted wounds. We can talk about Brian Hoyer's struggles. All of those things are definitely true. But this tonight was a debacle by the league, in my opinion, a game that never should have been played in the first place. And then I sat there and watched a broadcast say how revolutionary Andy Reid is because they ran a pop pass on the goal line to score with McCole Hardman when the Patriots defense is doing all sorts of crazy things in coverage. Did we hear a single thing about the rotations the Patriots defense had? We had, maybe 1 or 2 cutaways to all 22 footage of what exactly the Patriots D was doing. I can't even break it down for you folks exactly what the coverages were because I didn't see any of them because the broadcast was too busy talking about how great Patrick Mahomes was for the 236 yards he threw against the Patriots defense. I just feel like as somebody that was frustrated that they wanted to play this game anyways, and then you turn it on and you get that sort of product and that sort of treatment from everybody, the broadcast, the refereeing, the whole 9 yards, like I said at the beginning of this rant, a disservice by the NFL from start to finish here for the Patriots.
It was very clearly a primetime broadcast and pretty frustrating on many levels if you're a Patriots fan watching this game. But again, you have to look at the self-inflicted stuff as well because ultimately Tony Romo's not playing this game. And it doesn't matter how many platitudes they throw at Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. At the end of the day, Patriots went out there. And so here's the frustration. Here's my frustration, Evan, and one I think a lot of Patriots fans are going to share. Okay, Cam Newton's not here. You understand it. You play Hoyer because it's the sensible thing to do, okay? Then Brian Hoyer, the intelligent game manager, goes out there and has brain cramps at two very critical moments that could have completely swung the tide of the game, okay? When obviously you leave the points on the field by taking the sack that you absolutely can't take at the end of the half, and then the fumble, again, when you're driving for a potential score there, and a chance to take the lead and put KC a little bit on its heels. Just terrible game management, terrible situational awareness, and those two things led to ultimately KC making it a 2-score game, Hoyer getting benched, Stidham coming in cold, leading him on a touchdown drive, but not really being effective himself because I don't really think he had much of a chance in this game either. So I guess we go back to it. Hindsight's 2020. You don't know if Stidham would have played better than Hoyer. I question whether he would have, but you're sitting at home, you're a Patriots fan, you're wondering, you're playing Kansas City. You've got to take a gamble or a risk. You can't game manage yourself to victory here. And in fact, they almost did, which is amazing. But you think against a team like Kansas City, you have to play like you've got to do something risky, not play it safe against these guys. And Hoyer was a safe play that ended up clearly being a bad play.
I agree with everything you said. I mean, the first 4 throws that I had for Hoyer was sail it to Ryan Izzo, high to Damir Bird on the sideline, high to another pass on the sideline as well. He was airmailing everything, and he looked uncomfortable from the jump. And then the 2 sacks in the red zone, just absolutely brutal. I mean, like you said, listen, the interception, it was high. It was a bad throw. The linebacker made a nice read on the play action, and he jumped underneath it, and it forced Hoyer to kind of put some more air under it than he probably wanted to. And it was a pick. You know, every pick, no quarterback wants to throw the interceptions. The 2 sacks in the red zone were just absolute killers. I mean, the one before the half, it's just you're running a 4 verticals concept. Somebody wins inside on his route. Somebody gets body positioning on the route. You throw it up and you give them a chance to make a play, or you throw the ball away. And that's a play that you call it there for verticals because it's going to hit in 2 seconds. You're either going to have it or you're not, right? It's very clear very early on in the down whether or not you're going to have somebody winning their route or not on that type of play. So either it's there or it's not, and you throw away the football. Just a brutal, brutal sack. And then the second one, to not have the kind of awareness and the wherewithal. First of all, he's hanging on to the ball forever in the pocket. So you have to know the rush is coming and the pocket is collapsing at some point. To not just turtle and protect the football to preserve the 3 points, that's what ultimately got him benched, right? Is the fact that he couldn't protect that football there. Ball security is obviously going to cost you. You turn the ball over 4 times against Kansas City, you're not going to win. Right. And that's really ultimately, I had the rant at the beginning. That's obviously frustrating me from just a viewership standpoint. I think as a fan, you can feel really slighted about what the league has pulled over the last couple of days between the refereeing, the broadcasting, the whole situation with Cam Newton and the travel. Absolutely just a disgrace. But from the game itself, they lost the football game because they turned the ball over 4 times and they had a ton of self-inflicted wounds. I mean, if Julian Edelman doesn't drop the ball into Tyrann Mathieu's hands, they got a chance to drive the football and tie the game back up. So that's really where I'm at right now, is just that ultimately you weren't going to win that game. Bill Belichick just said it in his post-game press conference. We had a lot of opportunities. We had chances to make plays, and we just didn't make enough of them. That's ultimately what decided the football game. But as a fan, I write about the product that I just watched in terms of the league.
Well, and again, going back to the disservice to Patriots fans, when you're talking about the broadcast, again, Bill Belichick, they schemed it beautifully. Exactly. You know, and that's what's frustrating is you're going to see this, and it's going to be this ho-hum 26-10. Patriots hung in there, but the better team just distanced themselves. And sure, that's what happened again. But you're right. That Edelman, what is he due now 2 of these a game? I mean, he had a terrible drop earlier. This is a massive brain cramp at that point in the game, at that area of the field, to not have your eyes on the ball. I mean, you're the guy here. You're Julian Edelman. You can't do that. You understand when a Damir Bird looks upfield and try. You can't do that. He does it way too often to be able to get away with it with his, I mean, somewhat diminishing skills at this point. So that was an absolute killer there. And obviously that's nail in the coffin time.
Right. And I think the biggest thing with Edelman is gone back. He led the league in drops last year. He's on pace to be close to the top of the league in drops again this year. And I've gone back and looked and seen so many times, what's up with these drops? Why are they happening? Some of them certainly are happening in the middle of the field, right? Which are tough bang bang type of plays. And is it a drop or is it kind of a contested catch? Which way do you go with that, right? But these focus drops, like the one he had tonight, where all he's got to do is protect the football. Even if it does fall incomplete, the last thing that you can do is let the ball bounce off your hands and right into the Honey Badgers' mitts, right? That's right. Obvious. So those are focus drops. Those are not being locked in. That's not being focused, not being ready for the ball, those types of things. And Tony Romo tried to give him sort of an out on that play and say, it wasn't really in the game plan. He wasn't really
what was he talking about?
I didn't see that either. So again, another reason why I'm pissed off at Tony Romo for that terrible broadcast that we just watched. But look,
I had to rewind that to listen to it because I had no idea what he was talking about there.
Right. And I truly felt like at some point in this game, defensively, they were locked in for all 4 quarters and they battled their butts off and played a fantastic game. Offensively, they had moments in this game, especially when Stidham started to take over and Damien Harris started to roll a little bit, where they could have moved the football a little bit more. And it was just self-inflicted wound after self-inflicted wound. The only thing you can really pick on the defense, they should have had 2 interceptions. Devin McCourty at the beginning of the game, J.C. Jackson at the end of the game.
Yep.
When you're playing a team like the Chiefs and Mahomes, you have to take advantage of those types of plays. It's really killer when you don't make the most of all your opportunities against a quarterback like that. But like I said, I can't wait till the coach's film comes out tomorrow to see exactly. They are dropping 3-8 into coverage, rushing only 3 guys half the time, it seemed like, in that game.
Yeah.
Really only 3 or 4 man rushes. They basically said, we're not going to rattle Mahomes by blitzing him or trying to get after him, so we're just going to cover everybody as best as we can. And it really worked. I mean, I know Mahomes only threw for almost 8.1, was it? Yeah, 8.1 yards per attempt, which is solid, but not very good for him in terms of what he can normally do when he lights up the scoreboard. So again, it just a great defensive effort all around. They held it together for as long as they could. Offensively, I don't really know what more you would have expected. I mean, they ran for 185 yards. They tried running the football. They did it pretty successfully, especially in the second half. I'm not really sure what more you would have expected. Maybe they pulled a plug on Hoyer a little bit earlier.
Maybe. But that's the thing. It's going to keep coming back to you just can't make the dumb plays. So that dropping the interceptions, as you said, you just can't leave that many plays on the field. Hoyer leaving the points on the field there. Again, I think that one pick, his first pick, is the one you could say, football. It happens. He sailed to throw, But the other ones are, the Edelman drop, the Hoyer fumble, and then even the Stidham one, I think, again, chalk it up to – I think if he makes that decision a split second earlier, he's got Bird if he wants him.
Yeah, I got a lot of people in my mentions on that one on Twitter because I said that he just got to it a little bit late. It looks underthrown, folks, because he got undercut, right? Yeah. It looks underthrown because the route was –
He just had to get rid of it about a second earlier, and he's got him before you have a chance to get over it, right?
That concept, if you're a Patriots quarterback, you're trying to hit Edelman underneath. Bird is clearing it out. The post safety got stuck in the middle of the field for some reason, and Bird was wide open, and Stidham just didn't see it quick enough. That's I hate to say this, but if that's Tom Brady, that's probably 6.
Exactly. Right? That's a Jared Stidham year 2.
Right.
I just didn't see it fast enough, and it was there, and he missed it. He just didn't diagnose it quickly enough. It's a shame, but you understand it, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll ask it quickly. In a limited snaps from what you saw from Stidham, and again, greatly helped out by a big Damien Harris run on that touchdown drive. Oh my God, a fade to N'Keal Harry.
Right.
Rejoice, N'Keal Harry fans. But even that was a strange fade. He caught it with his belly in the middle of you falling down instead of high pointing it. But anyway, different story. From what you saw in Stidham, limited snaps. What did you like? What did you not like?
I like that it didn't look too big for him. That was a spot that he came into where easily a lot of. I know the stats we just flashed them up. They look terrible, right? 38% completion rate, 4.6 yards per attempt. It doesn't look great, but I thought that he made a couple of throws on that touchdown drive where you said, okay, that was at least he looked the part. At least he made the right decisions with the ball. At least he was throwing with decent ball placement. The fade to Harry was really nice, and I thought it was a really great route by Harry to run through some contact there at the line of scrimmage and actually fight through the defender's body and make himself available at the back pylon. That's basically exactly how you draw it up. When the defender's all over you like that at the line of scrimmage, it becomes more of a back pylon play and a race to the back pylon. So I thought that was a great throw and a great catch. Obviously, the interception, we talked about it. It was a little late. I think Stidham looked like he could survive and he could belong here. And if it were me, and obviously I'm not Bill Belichick, but if it were me, I would probably be strongly considering starting Stidham next week against Denver.
With a full week of preparation.
Because I just feel like at least he can push the ball down the field consistently with some accuracy, right? That was the biggest thing with Hoyer, was that his ball, once he tried to throw it and open it up over 10 yards, it was just all over the place. It was really sailing on him most of the time, which is usually an indication that he's trying to overthrow it. So he's probably a little bit concerned that he doesn't have the zip to get it in there into a tighter closing window. So like that corner route to Ryan Izzo, the safety's kind of crashing down and you need to hit that honey hole, right? You need to hit the coverage right there. You need to have some zip on that throw. So he tries to overthrow it. And when you overthrow it, the ball comes out here instead of here, and the ball goes straight up in the air. And
he kind of maybe looked at Izzo a couple times too many, I thought, anyway. But regardless, as you scout type people like to call it, Stidham's clearly got more arm talent. Okay,
exactly. And at least with the whole week of preparation, like you said, you prepare the offense. I think with Stidham, to me, and he's decent when you spread it out too, but the under center play action stuff is where he can thrive. Put the fullback in the backfield, let Harris or Sony or whoever's back there sort of be the center point for the defense. Everybody's kind of looking at the running back. You yank the string with the play action passes, and you can get some openings and create some separation that way for your receivers. I thought the throw he made to Bird, or broken down play, kind of scrambled out of the pocket, was able to find Bird on the sideline for a nice gain. Those
the one where Bird kind of fumbled it a little bit.
Yeah, those are the types of plays that Hoyer just simply can't give you. So even if it's inconsistent, and this is exactly what we saw out of Stidham in camp, ironically, was these high peaks and valleys, right? 1 second he's making this amazing throw to N'Keal Harry. The next second he's late to a read to Demir Bird is throwing a pick. That's exactly what we saw out of him in training camp. So it's not a big surprise, but I think that you would take the volatility more for the high-end plays than Brian Hoyer just brain farting all over the field like he did tonight.
And that's exactly it. Is if Hoyer's in there, he's got to play it perfect, and you live with his limitations. But when he's doing what he's doing, there's really not much of a justification remaining there. Again, I know a lot of the analysis going in, and you talked about this as well, is if you knew Cam's absence was small, and again, you're looking at Denver in a bye week, so by then you're expecting Cam back. You're not expecting him back for the Denver game. That would be, I don't think that turn is possible at this point, but you are expecting him back after the bye, so you really need a 1 week Band-Aid. Hoyer made sense here because he's been present and he's been the number 2.
Right.
This is going to be an interesting call here, because do you think you could game manage it with a full week of Hoyer against a team like Denver and get away with it? Bill might try. I know fans want to see Stidham because you want to see a glimpse of whether he's a full-blown guy who could press Cam for time during the year, which likely not, but who knows what happens next year. You want to know if the guy you've got here is real. And everybody was fed this bag of goods at the beginning of the year that they really believe in this guy. They didn't draft a quarterback because they like Stidham so much. And this was the company line for most of the offseason until, they signed Cam Newton. Who knows? It's just a flyer. And then it's, they don't love the way Stidham's necessarily working out this offseason, or he's not quite getting it. And now he's relegated to third string, and you're left wondering, was this all BS, or is there still something there? So you want to see it, I guess. There's more promise in Stidham. You want to at least see it. And I think that's what Patriots fans want next week.
Yeah, I mean, this is, to me, when this presents itself with a full lead up of, obviously it's a little bit of a short week, but relatively speaking, you're going to get the Wednesday through Friday practice schedule and all that stuff. What I look at this is more of a 2016 Jimmy G to Tom Brady type of situation where you give Stidham the game to see what do you have now? Where is he at in his development? Where is he at in his progression as an NFL quarterback? Because you're going back to Cam. It's Cam's team, and there's no quarterback controversies. Even if Stidham throws for 5 touchdowns against Denver, they're still turning back to Cam when Cam is healthy and rid of this coronavirus, right?
We will absolutely manufacture a quarterback controversy.
Of course we will.
If Stidham throws for 5 TDs, we absolutely will.
Yeah, absolutely. But we know that Cam is going to be the guy, and it's Cam's team, and it's
just like it was Drew's team. Yep.
Right. So you're the worst. Okay, so with that in mind, I just don't know. Denver's not even a good team, so it's not like you're throwing him in there against the defending champs on the road like it would have been this week in short notice. You're going to have the full game plan week ahead of you. I just don't like you've been saying. If Brian Hoyer is going to make those types of mistakes, those rookie mistakes as a veteran quarterback, to take those sacks in the red zone, he cost them at least 6 points, and I don't know how else you can manage that. I don't know how else you can make the case that he is the better option moving forward if he's not going to play smart football. And that is definitely what we saw out of him tonight. It's a tough spot for the team. I know they're not going to make any excuses about the refs or about the travel or anything like that. I didn't think that the travel was that much of an impact. I thought they looked ready to play. I thought
they did, and they played it. Yeah, and what's amazing, Evan, is at the end of the day, this, like Seattle, will be a moral victory game because of what you learned about yourself, okay? Right. Because with Seattle, you learned that, hey, this offense can move the ball if it needs to. And again, granted, it was against Seattle, which is proven to have almost a historically bad secondary, at least to start the season. But that showed you something you didn't know you had. And here, you went against KC, and I think knowing you had no Newton, knowing that they were traveling day of, this felt like the type of game that I'm sure some Patriots fans were like, I hope we don't lose by friggin' 40 here on national television. This could be really embarrassing. And it didn't. They did what they do to Mahomes and Andy Reid, and they put forth a really strong defensive game plan. And you have to wonder, a Newton-led offense here, you would imagine this game, the Patriots would have had a lead at some point in it. And KC would have had to been driving, coming back, and try to, this would have come down to the wire sort of game at KC, given all of these circumstances, if you had your full complement here and you had Newton playing. So that has to bode well, for the type of team you think you want to be later on in the year. You mentioned it during the week. This is a tough time to play KC early in the year here. So I think you feel okay about this if you're a Patriots fan, given everything that happened.
I think the biggest thing that if I'm a Patriots fan, and I'm pissed off right now about this whole thing, so it's the one silver lining that I can possibly, that I can take from this. The defense played out of its mind for 4 quarters, and they really, really took it to Patrick Mahomes in terms of confusing him mentally. He was holding on to the ball, and he just knew the coverage down the field was locked tight, because if he can find an opening, he's the one guy that can. So through the first 3 weeks of the season, the defense looked okay at times, but quite frankly, statistically especially, they were not very good defense for the first 3 games. Now, a lot of that was Russell Wilson, right? A lot of that was skewed by the huge game by Russell Wilson.
But this is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and this was their best defensive performance, wire to wire.
Building foundation, building block type of game for them defensively. Yeah. Winovich, Dietrich Wise, Lawrence Guy, Adam Butler. That front 4 was all over Patrick Mahomes, only rushing 3 or 4 guys, and they were still getting home to the quarterback. The coverage in the secondary was excellent. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill really didn't kill them all that much. It was more about Mahomes spreading the football around, and that's sort of what I think you have to force him to do, is throw the ball to a bunch of different receivers. Kelce led them with 70 receiving yards tonight. This was not a 500-yard Patrick Mahomes performance. The defense held him in check. This looked to me like the 2019 Patriot defense, not schematically, because they did a lot of things different schematically than they would have done with those boogeymen and those linebackers last year.
Right.
But in terms of just the fact that they could lock down in coverage in the secondary and really dominate, that was what you need if you're this Patriots team moving forward, because it's not always going to be the Cam Newton show every single week. So that's I think the biggest thing that you can take away as a positive from this game. The run defense, I mean, they held them to 3.8 yards per carry, basically playing with light boxes the entire night. Dime and too high safety. They're begging Patrick Mahomes to hand the football off, and they basically limited Clyde Edwards-Helaire the entire night. So all those things are really positive takeaways for the Patriots defense. On offense, I said it before the game to our old friend Alex Barth, I kind of felt like this was a preseason game for the offense, right? Because you had a backup quarterback in there. You wanted to integrate Damien Harris back into the lineup. You just kind of wanted to see some things from some guys from this offense. You knew it wasn't going to be pretty. You knew they weren't going to put up 40 points. You just wanted to see them be able to integrate some of these new weapons and see some things happen out of a guy like a Damien Harris. And that's what we saw. So I think ultimately, this is a sort of, a silver lining win, or loss. You kind of just say, all right, we didn't have Newton. It was a crash course of a weekend, and we kind of kept it close against the defending champs. I mean, I don't know what more you can ask for. And if the refs don't shoot you and you don't shoot yourselves in the foot, then you might make this a really much closer game.
This could have snuck this out, right? And again, it's you don't want to stack up too many of these moral victories, but given this is a team that had an insane amount of question marks entering the season, again, you discover things about yourself along the way, and almost the first 4 weeks have had a preseason sort of vibe. Week 2, you discover, hey, our offense isn't as bad as we thought. We can move the ball a little bit here. You have 2 games where you realize we can run it when we want to, and we can run it at will. And again, tonight was another one of those nights, but we'll get to that in a minute. And this was the night you discovered that, this was the night you discovered, hey, our defense actually is good, and we can play here. And so, again, positive steps here. Let's switch over to the running game, and, let's pour one out for our friend Sony Michel, who's never going to carry a ball again.
I don't know about that.
Anyway, Sony Michel conveniently goes on IR just in time for Damien Harris to come off of it. And so now you've got this was okay, look, Patriots fans have been dying for this because nothing personal against Sony. We've seen enough of him to know who he is.
Right.
Slow plodding runner, gets what's blocked, can't break the big run. Encouraging things last week, sure, but at this point, there's no mystery anymore with what Sony Michel is. He's not a game-breaking, game-changing talent. He's a jag. And so in a team that's sorely lacking for playmakers, you're just hoping that you have one in Harris, who we hadn't really seen. And again, it's one game, got a huge run on that touchdown drive, which make the numbers look even more impressive. But he looked like he was running with a great deal more burst than what we'd seen from Sony on a lot of his carries. And in fact, it looked like he was close to popping a couple. And he could, I'm not saying he left it on the table, but he almost got through the line of scrimmage a couple of times and broke off big ones. And the threat of that alone makes you a much more dangerous team, especially if you're going to be playing this bully ball style, because it's one thing to 4-yard, 5-yard, 6-yard people to death, up the field. It's another when if you get that hole, you could pop it into the secondary and you got a guy who could go. That makes you feel a little bit better. And Harris definitely looked more like that guy than anybody else they have on their roster.
Yeah, he did exactly what we saw out of him in training camp, which is that, it took him some time to break that big run, but eventually he broke off that 41-yarder, and everyone kind of saw what we were all hyping up in camp is that second gear. That little bit more burst than I think what Sony Michel has. He's not Chris Johnson, he's not running away from the defense and burning the top off or anything like that, but he's got a little bit more burst through the line of scrimmage. The one thing I thought early on in the game, I don't know if it was just him getting back used to live action or whatnot, but his vision was a little bit suspect early on.
Yep.
Could have made some cuts off of Jakob Johnson to the outside and bounced it a few times. I thought that usually we would have seen Damien Harris do that. I think early on in the game, he was kind of just following Jakob wherever he was going to go.
But
that
again,
was kind of the call. And
first game, no preseason for anybody, and starting on IR, I guess it's to be understood a little bit. You're just jumping right in there and going.
Absolutely. And that's the break I'll give him. And then finally on the 41-yarder, it's a cross lead play. So instead of leading it straight through the hole, Jakob Johnson's crossing to the other side. And it's basically designed to hit backside, right? You want to get the defense to flow to that direction. But the one thing that you need to have is the running back needs to press the hole behind the fullback like he's leading with Jakob Johnson. He's going to go right behind him. His running back, his track is going to take him right behind Jakob. And that's what gets the second level of the defense to basically out leverage itself, right? Is to flow to the left sideline, and then you can make that cut backside. And that play is exactly designed to do to hit where he hit it. And the patience and sort of the understanding of what his footsteps for the first 3 steps before his cut mean to that defense to manipulate those defenders. Again, that's everything that we saw from Damien Harris in camp. So no, he's not Barry Sanders. He's not Chris Johnson. He's not going to run for 80-yard touchdowns and all that kind of stuff. But he's got the same sort of vision and balance as Sony Michel, but a little bit more burst.
A little bit more juice.
1-yarder, just a little bit more up the field. So that was all great signs. Their sub-package runs worked really successfully. James White averaged 7 yards a carry on those.
Everybody across the board, they're 5.3 as a team. White 7 yards per carry. Burkhead, I think, was 5 also? 4.1 for Burkhead, 185 yards, 5.3 average as a team. And again, you're talking about doing this down Shaq Mason, and then you lost another lineman during the game.
Right.
So
Isaiah Wynn's in and out. Jermaine Illuminor has a migraine and
and he's out early. So you're
I'm pretty sure Jermaine Illuminor has a migraine issue. Like that's a
thing,
a health issue for him. So no surprise that might pop up. It's just a terrible timing, obviously, for it to pop up.
So you're seeing. That was, and obviously you're without Andrews. That was patchwork. And again, only 2 sacks, and one of them was at least one of them was obviously self-induced by Hoyer, who held the ball for 17 seconds, and really being able to run the ball at a time where you really expected Kansas City to, expect you to run the ball, because they didn't really
on a bad run defense, and they were successful in doing so. Kansas City came into this game ranked 30th in DVOA against the run. They weren't really able to stop Lamar Jackson's running game until the score got out of hand, and Baltimore had to start throwing the football to get back in the game. So if you can keep it close like the Patriots did, you can grind down this Kansas City team, and they were pretty darn close to doing that. There one Edelman drop snafu and a couple of fewer mistakes by Brian Hoyer early on in the game, taking those sacks, and all of a sudden this game looks a lot different. And of course, the interception that wasn't, and those types of plays by the refs as well. I don't know how you could have expected a better effort given the circumstances. The score being 26-10, I said it once, I'll say it again. It means absolutely nothing to me. I really don't think this was a 26-10 game. This was a close, nail-biting game that a few really costly errors by the Patriots, mainly out of Brian Hoyer, one out of Julian Edelman, made this game feel like a 16-point.
And it wasn't. This was a game that was a hard-fought one-score game until that Edelman gaffe. At this point. So that's what you got. I don't know if there's any other stray observations. I know you're riled up, so I want to make sure you didn't leave anything on the table.
No, I said it all in the beginning. It's not very often, and it's a benefit and a curse, I think, to not being able to travel to these games, right? It's not very often that I get to sit on my couch and watch the Patriots play a football game. And if I'm going to sit there and watch the Patriots play a football game, I at least want to be educated by the broadcast. I each want to be informed and be told what's actually going on the field, because for whatever reason, they don't want to show us the bird's eye view of the field. They want us to zero in on the football. So you got to watch just a cloud of dust and the quarterback standing in the pocket the entire game. It would be nice, especially having a former quarterback like Tony Romo in the booth, if he could explain what exactly was going on with Patrick Mahomes as he's having trouble dissecting these Patriots zone coverages for the most part. And we did not hear anything about that. All we heard about was that Andy Reid and Bill Belichick have been coaching a long time and have won a lot of games against each other, and that Andy Reid's got every play in the book for every situation and all this kind of stuff. And it just was a disappointment. It was a bad broadcast.
Actually, the only time you heard him mention the zone was on those back-to-back plays where I think Watson came across the field and he had Bentley chasing him down. And then the next play, Duggar and Gilmore were looking at each other with Kelsey caught a ball, and Romo's like, New England's struggling with their zone a little bit. And those were like the
Right.
two of the only
They did an excerpt. They did like an Exos thing with the 2 plays that the Chiefs were able to make against the Patriots pretty much all night. And they said, "Oh, look at how great this is by Tyreek Hill. Look at how he sits this route down." It's like, so the one play that the guy makes against the zone, you're going to talk about that instead of talking about how he's been shut down the entire game. That to me is just, as a fan watching it at home, it really does kind of.
Yeah, you've determined your narrative ahead of time, and you're going to tell your stories. Again, it was a very primetime broadcast, but certainly, again, at the end of the day, not the reason the Patriots lost.
No, the broadcast was definitely not the reason the Patriots lost. The refs, that's another story for a different day.
We didn't even get into that. I actually still don't know what. I guess it was blown down.
So they called it
Mahomes play that was
they called it a sack. They called him down.
So it was down. Okay.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure it out on the broadcast, but I thought called down, which was ridiculous because I mean ridiculous. He's well within still making a football move, trying to get rid of the ball. That was a fumble or an interception. I mean, it was an interception. It landed directly in Calhoun's hands. That was a shockingly bad call.
I think it caught everybody by such surprise that even Bill Belichick was a little bit rattled by how just awkward and bad of a situation it was by the refs. And normally you would see Belichick call a timeout or just throw the challenge flag right away.
Right. I don't understand what Bill was doing there. And Casey ran out and punted it 12 seconds later, and that was it. So not great recognition there by Bill, right? I mean, he's got to do
not the best. And that's, I think, a situation that even he kind of got rattled by just how egregious of a call it was, right? And just like how blatantly awful of a miss. I think that's sort of a loophole too, in a way, with the rules being what they are, that if the ref doesn't rule it as a turnover on the field, that it's not automatically
reviewed, right?
For these like sort of questionable calls, it's really the onus is on the coach to throw the challenge flag. So I just look, the refs were bad. I thought that the 2 worst calls of the night were obviously the missed interception. The second one was that DPI against Kelsey that I believe was on 3rd down and extended a drive there, where Kyle Duggar is just playing perfect outside leverage against Travis Kelsey with the inside help from the post safety. And Kelsey tries to run a little bit of a corner route and just runs right into Duggar, who's obviously a brick wall even at his size, bounces right off of him and falls to the ground, and the ref calls the DPI. I mean, that's literally exactly how the coverage is drawn up. That's how Bill Belichick coaches it. That's how it should be played. Duggar perfectly with his leverage on that route, and they still threw the flag against him. So it's definitely a situation where, as a Pats fan, it's frustrating because you see the call for Mahomes and then you see a call for Kelsey against a rookie safety, and you do kind of think about a little bit of, kind of star treatment for these 2 guys out there. And that's sort of where I was at. But again, I hate blaming the refs for the reason why they lost. And I don't think that's why the reason they lost this game.
Yeah. Taking a quick peek at the chat before we sign off. A lot of Hoyer hate here.
I mean, I expect that, listen, Hoyer did not play well. No one's going to sugarcoat it. He did not play well. It's a tough game to watch because, like you said, John, you need him to be the veteran, savvy, smart quarterback that just manages the football game, and he did nothing but the opposite of that tonight.
Yeah. Just seeing if we're missing anything here. That's about it. So again, to recap, Pats played a game they probably shouldn't have played. At this point, we haven't even talked about this at all, but again, anybody following this understands what is going on. 2 days out from a positive test on the team and certainly a series of negatives throughout the rest of the team, the NFL felt it was wise to have these teams play, even though the incubation period for COVID is still in play here. So you're hoping that nobody else is infected here, not just for their own personal safety and health, but also because of the massive ripple effect something like that could have on 2 franchises now that both took the field against one another and each had positive tests in their own shop. So again, a questionable decision in the first place to play this game, and they played it. And so now everybody's fingers crossed that this really was a one-off and you're fine, even though the Tennessee Titans had positive tests spanning 8 days from their first wave of tests, including as recently as Saturday, where they were still having positives. Did they have another one today?
No, today was the first day in 6
First
days.
clean day.
Have one, right?
Oh, right. Today was the first clean day. So again, you're hoping nothing happens there. They play on Monday. They travel day of. Cam Newton is missing. Brian Hoyer is awful. They shoot themselves in the foot with 4 turnovers, play a terrific defensive game against Kansas City. They're in it for most of the way. Score is not indicative of what actually happened in the game. The broadcast was bad. Evan is mad as hell.
I just want a solid viewing experience for people because I'm lucky enough that in a normal year I get to travel to these games and get to go and watch them in person.
Yeah.
So I just feel for fans that watch them at home that just don't get told the real story of what exactly happened. Instead, they have to listen to these kind of, like surface level kind of, oh, how great is Patrick Mahomes? How great is Andy Reid? How great is Bill Belichick? Instead of actually getting into what's really happening on the game. And it was so disappointing because Romo usually is so much better than everybody else at doing that. And tonight he just was he was Chris Collinsworth tonight. He was just surface level. This is what happened. He kind of ran around and made a throw, or whatever. And I do want to mention one thing quickly, though. The reason why Belichick didn't challenge the interception play was because the referees actually ruled it forward progress.
That's what I think. Okay.
Which is not challengeable. So the ref really just screwed the pooch for the Patriots on that all completely. Yeah.
Okay. So that's going to wrap it up again. We're going to chalk this one up in the you don't see it in your standings, on your webpage, but the MV category for moral victory.
Yeah.
And now they've got 2 of them this season, and they're 2-2, and it is what it is. You've got Denver, and you're hoping, regardless who's at quarterback here, that should be a game that this team can win.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the bye week, and then hopefully a fully healthy team in an NFL season that's going, knock on wood. So we'll see what happens here. Next couple of weeks are going to be really interesting as far as the COVID situations go, and you're hoping not any more outbreaks. Again, the NFL is now really, really putting the hammer down on teams, threatening forfeiture of draft picks, games. They don't want people messing around anymore. So
they'll come to New England first when that option is on the table. So.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we'll see what happens there, but we're going to wrap up the post-game show here. Thanks for joining us. Evan has a ton more to do, so he's going to go off and do that. You can always catch more of our videos on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Follow Evan Lazar on Twitter and follow all of his work at CLNS Media, clnsmedia.com. For Evan Lazar, I'm John Zanis. We'll see you guys next time.